Are you guys bored? Well, I hope not, because I just got out here. No, but seriously, we've all been bored before. We've all wondered, what if we lived in a different city? Or what if we were raised in a town that's so dull? Everybody loves to say that their small town has no culture, no community, and is the last place you want to be on a Saturday night, unless you want a full 8 hours of sleep. Now, to anyone thinking this about a single city in Henry County, you'd be wrong. Henry County has culture, and we're all a part of it. However, a county we once knew for its farms and community atmosphere has more recently been a haven for warehouses and land contractors. Yeah, our growing economy is great, but what is the consequence of investing all of our resources into human capital and little into the human experience? To answer that, we must first define what the human experience even is. In short, it's the feeling of being alive, our thoughts, our five senses, the perception of the world around us. But most importantly, it's our culture. That's how we interact with others, whether it's sharing a social media trend, talking about a fight we just saw in third period, or just going to church on Sunday. That's culture. A good community has culture, but it's important that we don't separate the two. Because if we do, we lose what makes us human. So, let's imagine our community as an apple pie, a sweet treat usually made for Thanksgiving dinner, and a perfect pillar of Southern culture. Before you even start thinking about baking this pie or eating this pie, you gotta pick out the apples. In our pie, the apples are the people, each with their own unique traits, personalities, backgrounds, and culture. Some are sweet, some are tart, but together, they create the flavor of our pie. To really bring out that flavor, we need spices. Some people like to use cinnamon, sugar, nutmeg. In our pie, the spices are the shared interests and goals that bond us as a community. But the most crucial part of a good apple pie is the crust. Without a good crust, everything falls apart. So what does a good crust even look like? I feel like the best example to use of a good crust, a good culture, is one that I've seen in my own community. Many of you might not know this, but there's this amazing performing arts theater in McDonough called the Hood Street Art Center. Now, to preface, I've been playing saxophone for around 6 years now, and while I'm not the best by any means at all, if you need someone to play at a kid's birthday party or wedding anniversary, my rates are dirt cheap. But in the summer of 2023, I packed up my saxophone and I went to this theater to play musical for this live musical called The Dreamgirls. Now, if your birth year starts with a 2, you've probably never seen the musical live, let alone see the movie with Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson. But I can tell you one thing, it was chock full of culture. You had a story about 3 black women entering a competitive music industry representative of the late 1900s, where genres like rock, R&B, pop, and soul music were rising to nationwide popularity. You had themes of found family, biological family, and the unity that is created through a shared goal in music. And most importantly, it's a musical, one of the greatest instances of performing arts in America. So like I said before, this musical was just chock full of culture, ready to create a community. And it did. It starts with the actors, who aren't professionals. They could be the dentist that fills your teeth, or the teacher that greets your kids at the school drop-off. But they spend every day working towards this musical, and eventually they form a community to their bonds to the musical. Then you have the musicians. When I entered the studio for the first time, I was scared. You had Mozart on one end, guiding the rhythm section and keeping the singers together. Then you had a 16-year-old trying his best not to get lost. But after each rehearsal, I grew closer and closer to my fellow musicians as we would talk about music, how to best play this part, or how much the piano we needed in this section. I was introduced to a community I never knew of because of my participation in that cultural performance. And finally, you have the audience. Where there's no audience, there's no show. I remember having nights where we would have the little kids sit in the front just to make more room for guests. Someone going to this musical would be supporting their local community. In fact, throughout this entire process, there was just an overwhelming sense of community. I know nowadays it feels like you go to a class, a lecture, or even a concert, and everybody's just in a bubble, doing their own thing. But this musical was different. I was introduced to so many grandmas. I saw people from my school in the audience, and saw cars full of people arrive anticipating a good time. After one of our busiest nights, I just saw people casually walking home or walking to a local pizza shop to grab a bite. Nobody was scared to walk home at night because there was a dozen people behind you watching your back. And when you're not concerned for your safety, you're enabled to start forming those bonds in your community. Not only that, but this show could have generated foot traffic for a struggling business. The profit from all of our shows went back into the venue, whether it's buying bigger props, buying a fancier sound system, or just renovating the building. Someone going to this musical would be investing into their local community. According to America for the Arts, arts-rich cities see a 105% increase in tax revenue. And that's not coming from its residents. Like I said before, culture generates profit. If you go to a show or concert with your friends for 3 hours, you get a little hungry and go to a local restaurant to get a bite to eat. Not only that, but neighborhoods that embrace the arts see an increase in housing, population, and school test scores, along with a decrease in crime. Culture creates community. And there's more than one way to go about that. If you're an artist, musician, a poet, or even a baker, there's somewhere for you to do what you love locally. You just have to find it. And if you're someone like me who loves all those things but isn't good enough to create something of my own, then support those spaces and support those people who want nothing more than to share their passions with you. So with that, we finally have our crust, our culture. That being said, now we have to put it in the oven. I don't know about you guys, but my oven gets a little wonky. The backside usually gets hotter than the front, so while one side is getting burnt, the other side is basically undercooked. And I know as much as we can all relate to that, we need to understand that the oven is out of our direct control. Throughout this entire process, we've been controlling the factors. How sweet we want our apples, how flaky we want our crust. But once we get to the oven, we just have to set it to 350, check every 20 minutes, and make sure it's not burnt. The oven doesn't know that we're baking an apple pie for 20 minutes and stops heating up because we finally smelt the burning from the living room. It takes an active effort from us to make the oven do what we want. That's why for our pie, the oven represents our government, whether it's our city council leaders, state government, or local legislators. They can either make our pie delicious or disgusting. Because of that, we need to communicate with them. Because, yeah, they're trying their best to bake this pie for us, but they don't know exactly how the community feels. We have to tell them. After all, we elected them to bake this pie for us. And when your pie starts burning, it's not the apples that burn first, it's the crust. Many of our city leaders and us recognize the importance of economic growth. It's great if our city makes more money because it can be reinvested back into its citizens. But more often than not, it's spaces to express arts, passions, and culture that are the first to go when it comes time for budget cuts. For us, it's more than obvious that Henry County is growing at a rapid rate. In 2010, Henry County's population was around 200,000. In 2022, we were measured at 250,000. In contrast, Georgia's population grew 12%, while the US population only grew 7%. And experts predict our county's population to grow by 7,000 people every year. But I don't have to read you out these numbers to convince you how fast we're growing. You've seen it for yourself. The dozens of neighborhoods that just appeared out of nowhere, the new shopping plazas where untamed forests used to preside, and the traffic. Henry County is big, but there's no reason it should take an hour to drive to Sam's Club when it's at most a 20-minute drive. Sometimes we think too much about how much money we can make, how much wealth we can accumulate, but not enough about how we can enjoy that wealth. We drive home from work, and instead of being greeted with the culture of our city, we're met with rows of warehouses and lifeless neighborhoods. When we're hungry and don't want to cook, we often get fast food, which is just a cheap imitation of whatever culture it's trying to replicate. We make these sacrifices to our city's culture in the name of economic growth, but don't realize it's the culture that keeps the city alive. Like some of you in the audience, I once thought that Henry County was the most boring dot on the US map and needed more culture than just Dollar Generals and Walmarts. But as I was driving home from school one day, I realized this just isn't the case. Our culture isn't the roads being backed up for seemingly no reason or the construction on Highway 42. That's not us. Our culture is that homely feeling you get whenever you walk into an Ingles or a Love and Oven. It's going to your favorite park with your family. It's the high school football games on Friday nights and the Little League on Saturday. It's the amazing performing arts you can find at the Hood Street Art Center in McDonough. And yeah, it's the fact that we have two Waffle Houses less than a mile away from each other. And we all know the one next to the Quick Trip is better. I realized in the pursuit of financial gain, we isolate ourselves from our culture. And in doing so, we isolate ourselves from our community. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the ability to go out and support a local Southern dining restaurant instead of eating the same chicken sandwich we've had hundreds of times. We have the ability to ask our city leaders and state representatives to advocate for small businesses, whether it's at the weekly city council meeting or on the Senate floor. And we have the ability to go out and support spaces that champion arts, passion, and culture. My name is Ryan Tutuan, and I'd like to ask you again, what is the consequence of investing all of our resources into human capital and little into the human experience? To answer that, culture. Without it, we become disconnected, isolated, and yes, boring. We cannot underestimate the value of promoting and sustaining our city's culture, because where there's no culture, there's no community. Thank you.